Good morning, everybody. Happy January 12th of 2023. Um, Still sick, still sick, but I can breathe slightly better today than I could yesterday. Lots to get to in the world of the NBA that I've missed out on. It's only been like 5 days, and I feel like I've missed a whole half of the season. Some men's and women's college hoops also from last night. Shout out to the Texas Longhorns coming back and beating TCU. And shout out to Caitlin Clark, star guard for the Lady Hawkeyes out of Iowa. One rebound short of a triple double last night. Looking phenomenal. And I tell you, she might be walking into the WNBA a top 10 player. Not gonna lie. All right. Big news in terms of the future of hoop spaces. Also, probably likely tomorrow or Monday, depending on how I feel. Good news, hopefully. Shout out to everybody who makes part of their day part of our day. Brought to you by slamgoods.com. Go over to slamgoods.com. Use the promo code HoopSpaces, save 15% off of your entire purchase. I'll get the tweet up a little bit later. Shout out to the Fans View app as well. They are doing a pretty good job giving the chance to everyday fans to win a post game interview with NBA players. This week it's Ivaka Zubac of the Los Angeles Clippers. I'll get that tweet out there and I'll ask you to retweet. I'll be back in 20. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. All right. Good morning. If you want to come on up, please request the mic because I'm not going to be able to talk as much as I normally do. Um, so last week I had what I thought was a sinus infection. I get them quite frequently, to be honest. But it ended up being the flu. I've tested negative for COVID now twice, so we don't at two different times, so we don't think it's COVID. Um, but I also have an autoimmune deficiency. It's called mast cell syndrome. So when I get sick, it tends to cause inflammation throughout my body, and it really hits the lungs the hardest. So, um, despite me kind of breaking the fever and getting over the flu, I am had to now be on antibiotics as well as a steroidal inhaler in order to breathe as well as possible. So I will apologize in advance if I pause or if you hear a deep breath or some wheezing because I'm still sick. All right. I want to go ahead and get to the college scores. The only game that I was able to watch because it was the early game was this Iowa Northwestern game. I went to bed like super early because of medication, but I wanted to watch Caitlin Clark. She's a phenomenal player out of Iowa, and she's likely to be a future number one pick. 93-64. The game wasn't close, but like Caitlin Clark has a very interesting game. She's 6 foot, maybe 5'11", but she plays kind of like Russell Westbrook, who can shoot and manipulate the defense. And I think she can be a phenomenal pickup in the W. 20 points, 9 boards, and 14 assists last night. Phenomenal game by Caitlin Clark. Iowa State beats Kansas State 67-56. UConn, the Evil Empire, demolishes St. John's 82-52. Oklahoma State beats Baylor 70-65. The Baylor women out of the top 25 and trending down. Oklahoma beat Texas Tech 89-79, and Villanova outlasted DePaul in the second half 71-64. Your women's NCAA scores. And if you know, we're only 6 weeks away from tournament time. So we got to go ahead and get locked in. And then on the men's side, we have a new number one with the University of Houston reclaiming the top spot. They had a challenge last night, 83-77 from South Florida. Alabama upends Arkansas 84-69. Marquette beats the Evil Empire. The Yukon Huskies 82-76 in Milwaukee. Texas comes back in the second half, a huge second half, to beat TCU 79-75. Xavier, top 12 Xavier, more than likely heading into the top 10 by the end of the month. 90-87 over Creighton. The University of Miami bounced back after a loss. They beat Boston College 88-72. Missouri loses on the road to Texas A&M 82-64, likely putting them out of the top 25. College of Charleston in the CAA conference wins a close one, 71-69 over UNC Wilmington, the second best team in that conference. College of Charleston, 17-1 so far this season. And Duke had all they could handle with the University of Pittsburgh, 77-69. They trailed at halftime, came back and dominated the second half. 13-4, 9-0 at home. The issues have been on the road. But, for the NBA draft heads out there, Kyle Flipowski, Filipowski, he's legit. He is a legit player. I think he's very raw. He's going to need to fill out, but he can likely be a 15, 16, and 8 kid in the first couple of years if he fills out correctly. Really dominated that second half. All right. There you go. Your men's and women's top 25 action. You will, pardon me if you didn't hear anything about the University of North Carolina Tar Heels because they didn't play, nor do I think they're in the top 25 in the men's. All right. NBA action last night. Nerlens Noel is back, and he single-handedly altered the game. The Pistons beat the Timberwolves 135-118. The Wizards beat the Bulls 197, and it was the battle of who didn't want to win. Total of 30 points scored in the fourth quarter combined by the Bulls and the Wizards. Very bad. The Hawks are losing. The ratcheting heat on Nate McMillan's chair has caused him to stand up during most of the game. 114-105, Bucks over Atlanta. And this is with yet another miserable game by Giannis. We'll get into that. Pelicans fall to the Celtics in Boston. Jalen Brown goes off for 41 and 12. CJ McCollum, 38 in the loss. The Knicks beat the Pacers. They are now each at 23 and 19. Jalen Brunson, 34, and RJ Barrett back. He looked phenomenal as well. I think he had 26. The Spurs lose to the Grizzlies in the Battle of the Joneses Part 2, although this time at home, Ja Morant was available to start. He had 38. Trey Jones, the brother of Tyus Jones, 22, 6, and 6 in the loss. The Nuggets beat the Suns badly, 126-97. Nikola Jokic, 21 points, 18 boards, and 9 assists. Um, I put out the big board at the beginning, or actually like around Christmas time. I'm going to put out the new one next week, and I had Jokic up on the top, and all of those Jokic detractors have been quiet. Like, have you noticed that? The people say, "Oh, I don't want to see him win 3 in a row." Well, find me somebody who's more valuable. 21, 18, and 9 on 10 for 15 shooting. He only took 3 free throws, ladies and gentlemen. Like it's insane how good he is. Um, the Rockets. Shout out to EK Johnson. It's been a miserable watch. I had said that Houston was going to be the highlight of your league pass watch of a bad team that's exciting. And the only thing that's exciting are the ways they find how to lose. 135-115, losing to the Sacramento Kings. Alperen Sengun, a 10-3. Um, if you are on the West Coast, and then there's some places around the country, they have burger places that will stack as many burgers that you want as long as you pay for it. And that's what Alperen Sengun did. He stacked up a 10 by 3, ugly triple double, 10 points, 10 boards, 10 assists. And when I mean ugly, I mean it was ugly. Like I watched the highlights. Like the entire they showed the Houston Rockets showed the entire highlights of the triple double, and it was like not even a 30-second highlight. That's how ugly it was. You know it's a bad triple double if they can't even give you a half a minute of highlights. So there you go. Um, that free Jabari Smith Jr. propaganda is going to be loud. He had like 30 minutes and only 8 shots. It's pretty bad out there. Shout out to Demontis Sabonis continuing to play with an avulsion fracture. This is an untreatable injury. It's pain tolerance, and he tolerated enough pain to put up 25, 14, and 9. All right. There you go. You got your men's and women's top 25 action and last night's games. I have missed about a week of basketball. I am not going to have a show tomorrow unless I get the good news, because it's very difficult. Like one of the things that I have to do is I have to lay down or on my chest with a heating pad to loosen it up, and it's very discomforting. So. You have me until I'm ready to get off today. For all of you who've reached out, thank you for your well wishes. For those who tagged me on Twitter, I appreciate it. I'll try to get back to you, back to normal as soon as I can. All right, there you go. We have 6 of the 12 up here, JF Cake up here, and Bakari up here. Malika Walker of the Rewind Pod is in the building. JP, the franchise, that's Justin Padden, is in the building. And much like Justin, I'm a very passionate fan, right? Um, Over the years, however, the Philadelphia 76ers have managed to beat my fandom into a corner for a specific period of time. We called it the process. And so when I watch some of these highlights and I watch some of these games, I'm also very interested to see how teams are developing together, because that the team developing together is as much on the general manager and the head coach as it is on the players. And you can even see a bad team who's losing still play together, i.e. the San Antonio Spurs, versus a bad team who are just a collection of players who are doing things, i.e. the Houston Rockets. And I say that because I think both the Boston Celtics and the New Orleans Pelicans have done right by their young players, right? And much to that effect, what we're looking for is people who want to team up with Justin to help provide fan reaction videos for the Hoop Spaces YouTube channel. Justin already does it for the Celtics and other NBA topics. JF Cake has signed a board to Rock Miami, but we need more people. So if you have an interest, reach out to JP. It's real super easy, and by the time we get really ready to gear up towards the playoffs, we're going to have not just the format that's easy to follow, but a moderately to cheap pricing list of stuff to help make it better. And we'll even provide the Hoop Spaces graphic for the green screen, so that way when you are doing it, you don't have to worry about showing people your room. Yeah, let's try not to laugh. Laughing is bad. To the victor go the spoils, so we will go to Bakari first before we get to 6 of the 12. Bakari, good morning.
Good morning, Hoop. I hope you're doing all right, man. Um, um, it was a great win. Also, but I want to talk about the Pelicans first before I talk about my team, because this Pelicans team, oh man, like I watched it. I only watched 6 games of the Pelicans this year, and every time I watch the Pelicans, it's just great basketball. So even though the Pelicans don't ever discredit what the Pelicans are doing this season, this is they're definitely, I want to say, like full on contenders, but they're definitely in this mix to like possibly Western Conference Finals around that area. That's what I feel like for them. But Nikola Jokic, I don't know if they can get past the Nuggets. But now back to the Celtics. Jaylen Brown just had his night. I just I always have a feeling of like one of the Jays just going off, but I did not expect it to be Jalen this time. But he was just, oh my, like the third quarter, he just went off. Like it was pretty amazing to watch. But um Yeah, it was a great win. I would say I wished that Grant Williams didn't get like broken down by CJ McCollum, but I mean CJ McCollum had an amazing night too. What was I think was six threes before the half, even before the half. Oh my! So oh man, there was just
He
a lot
was
of good
he,
stuff. Even
but
though
he
the
didn't make any after. That's the problem.
I know, but like yeah, I can't discredit that. I don't care. I can't discredit what he just did in the first half that made it competitive. It's just after that, his trigger was just no more bullets. It's all good.
All right. I'm with you, and the funny thing about it is, they didn't have Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson, and even though the Celtics really kind of pulled away in that third quarter, it was still a game, right? Like they were
Yeah.
still matching bucket for bucket. It was just that Boston had already had their lead. Um,
Shout out Trey Murphy. Shout out Trey Murphy.
yeah, like I'm
Oh
telling y'all, people don't see it, but they're gonna start seeing it. Trey Murphy has unlimited range. Um, and he's got a real sweet stroke. He can hit every shot on the floor. Um, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the offseason with him. 6 of the 12 are resident Pelicans fans, as well as Rels Pels, who will probably join in and listen a little bit later. Um, there's no moral victories, but this was not a bad loss. I actually kind of like it, and it shows the Pelicans where they need to improve. Specifically, where they need to improve is shot selection. When the two big guys are out, and Zion and Brandon Ingram, people can get shot happy, especially if they follow the lead of CJ McCollum, who can get shot happy. Najee Marshall got a little shot happy. Larry Nance Jr., Jose Alvarado, each took some weird shots. We'll get into that, but I still actually like the Pelicans in this loss. 6 of the 12. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Good morning, everybody. Retweet the the show card on the big board. Um, yeah, man. I kind of understand what you're saying about the whole sinus infection thing. Being in Louisiana, I've always had terrible issues with sinuses and sinus infections. Thinking I have the flu. I actually had the stomach flu on Monday, which lasted about 10 hours. That was not fun at all. So I'm kind of just coming back to as well, starting to feel like myself again. So I hope you feel better. Um, yeah, honestly, man, it's so like it's so hard to watch this team, um, knowing how good they can be. It's just we have only seen, like I said, we've only seen the starting five together for 5 games this year. I think they've played a total of 130 minutes so far this season together. Um, and like that's like it like for us to still be in the top four in the West is just kind of like mind blowing. Like to be honest with you, like we can compete with. I mean, like we beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, but the teams that are in the upper echelon of the league, whether they're in the East or the West, you can just kind of see star power just takes over in the league, no matter how much depth you have. We saw it. We saw it with Dallas. We saw it with the Boston Celtics last night. Um, and like whenever CJ was playing with Bi and Zion, he did not have his shot at the beginning of the year. And then when he came back from COVID, he didn't have his legs. And now it just like I even tweeted last night. I'm just like, man, like I just can't wait to see Bi, Zion, and this version of CJ. Like we don't need CJ to drop 30 points a game with Bi and Zion. We just need CJ to hit the shots whenever he's taking those shots. And that's what he wasn't doing earlier in the year. So credit to the Boston Celtics. And like you said about Najee, it's hard to tell him not to take those shots because over the last 4 games, he's averaging 22 points per game. So it's like, I hear what you're saying, but it's like, who else do we really have at this moment in time? Um, and look, Trey Murphy needs to be in the dunk contest. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That man is a freak of an athlete. And he's not even touching the surface of how good he can be. So I'm gonna leave it right there. And good morning, everybody.
All right. Good morning. I put a tweet out a while ago, and Miami fans derided me in the group chat that I'm in. and shout out to the pool party, one of the best chats. I asked, is Najee Marshall like the next Jimmy Butler? And Jimmy Butler did the exact same thing. The difference is that Najee was a undrafted player, and Jimmy was drafted the last pick, I think, of the first round out of Marquette. And if you watch him, it's like the same type of mentality, a very affirmative, aggressive, I'm just going to do it mentality. And I appreciate that. JF already with the thumbs down. I mean, I totally get it. That's because that's your guy. We'll go to Blue. We'll get some Pelican Celtics thoughts from him. We'll go to JFK. Jay the Wakandan is also up here. If you could do me the favor, I'm gonna do this read. Fansview reached out a while back to say, "Hey, we like what you're doing here, and we'd like for you to help spread the word." I've now been on it three separate times. The first time was when Rels Pels interviewed Trey Murphy III. The second time was Mikal Bridges, and the third time was Derek White. The next one they have coming up is Ivaka Zubac. And it's real simple. There's two ways to be involved. You can download the app and use the free portion, or you can download the app and use the paid portion. If you use the free portion, like it's just basically TikTok, but for sports. If you use the paid one, you get that part, but you also get the ability to bid to win a post game interview. So you would actually be the representative of FansView asking professional players, in this case, it would be Zubats, post game questions. And it's not it's not hard. Like I've seen one win with $30, and then I've seen one win with a reaction video, 60 seconds. And like that's it. That's all you have to do if you want a chance to interview your favorite team's players. Just check out the FansView app. As they continue to add players through agencies, you'll be able to talk to them post game. It's pretty dope. Check them out. We'll go to Blue. What's up, man? Appreciate you coming up. I saw you had some tech issues bouncing up and down. Hopefully, you're with us. You there?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Chris. Good morning, brother, and thank you again for letting me up as always. Before I jump into anything, man, what I gotta do to get resident Pels fan in front of my name, like Six and Rel, like that's what I gotta
Ah,
do.
you mean how do you get that
How I
notoriety?
get that title? How I get that extra credit?
You get that extra credit by coming in and espousing the most beautiful propaganda you can of the New Orleans Pelicans while also interacting with the show by retweeting the show card and various other tweets.
That's exactly what I'm here to do, player. So first and foremost, we we seen Boston already this year. This will be the last time we saw Boston this year, and the last time we saw them, I believe, was in December, and we just felt completely outgunned. We lost by a similar margin, but it just seemed like they could not miss shots. And despite the loss that we suffered last night, I feel a lot more hopeful about this version of the Pelicans team. Nothing has changed. We haven't made any drastic moves. Again, like people have mentioned, we don't have Zion, we don't have Herb Jones, we don't have Brandon Ingram. But even still, this Pelicans team has matured in such a way where the next man up understands the assignment, and whether that next man up is C.J. McCollum dropping 6 for 6 threes. He like many of you mentioned, he ducked off in the second half, but again, he's been carrying an incredible burden, just being this team's primary offensive weapon and facilitator, or whether it's Najee Marshall doing all the intangibles, whether it's Trey Murphy, figuring it out and deciding when and where he can contribute and how effectively he can contribute. This is a formidable Pelicans team who, essentially took the Boston Celtics, the number one team in the league, 3 quarters for them to finally, pull out the win officially. So I'm really hopeful about this Pelicans team, and I don't so much worry about our fate. The biggest issue that I worry about is how do we get those stars to get reps in this down period right before they jump back on the floor. A lot of people assume, or a lot of people, dumb it down and condense it to where, okay, well, yeah, if we had Zion and Bi, things would be different. We'd win these games, and that part of that is true, but also it requires that these guys get reps within each other, because what we did see in the 10 games that they played with each other is Zion deferring to BI, or BI deferring to the Zion and CJ McCollum connection. What can this team do? What can those players do when healthy, not only to provide additional offense while they're on the floor, but also collaborate with each other effectively, right? Make sure one doesn't, defer or diminish himself, in the presence of the other. And I think that's something that we're going to witness. Hopefully, we get Brandon Ingram back on this road trip. I listened to Pels and Whistles, Rails Pels podcast, and they brought on a sports doctor who was able to kind of give a little bit more clarity as to Brandon Ingram's toe issues. And what he mentioned was it looks, it sounds, it appears to be something similar to a turf toe, which is an incredibly tricky toe issue. Most times I'll obviously seen in football, but that big toe propels over 50% of your push off. And so when he's saying he's not very comfortable pushing off, or he's not feeling as explosive in practice, you can attribute that to just how much burden, how much of a load that big toe carries. And so, I don't look at the lack of disclosure of the injury severity or a name for the injury outside of a contusion. I don't look at that as, some sort of, a misdirection by the medical staff or the team or the organization. I look at it as we're dealing with something that's very tricky. We're dealing with something that, may, for all intents and purposes, be healed, but it's a matter of comfortability. It's a matter of explosiveness. And if you watch Brandon Ingram play, you know that first step or that jab step or, that take, to get to the mid-range is a prominent part of his game. And if he doesn't have that, then he's limited to being a spot-up shooter, which that's not something we want, right? We need more paint presence. We need more variability between the 2 points that, Zion can get you automatically and the 3 points that, our role players and CJ can extend the floor. And we need that mid-range, efficiency. And so without Brandon Ingram having that explosiveness, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to get not only, back into the game and back into his style of play, but, the confidence, and the ability to, mesh with the other offensive components on this team. So I don't worry, because I do believe that the injury is taking care of itself, and and he's getting the necessary rest to make a playoff push. Zion is getting the necessary rest to ensure that his body isn't breaking down, and he was averaging like 32 points a game before the hamstring happened, and it could be something very minuscule, it could be something very minor, but we're going to need these guys in the second half of the season. We're going to need these guys post All-Star break. We're going to need them at 100% during this playoff push. And so I am 100% about erring on the side of caution, ensuring that these guys are fully healthy before they hit the floor, and then making sure that when they do hit the floor, Najee Marshall is confident, Trey Murphy is confident, C.J. McCollum is leading this offense the way that he's shown us he's capable of doing. And yeah, this Pelicans team is going to be a bad MF, man. I'm just I'm awaiting that other shoe to drop, and for these guys to get past All-Star break and really see what they're capable of.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a point for that. It was a good job. Turf toe. So the problem with their um avoiding the injuries, um, turf toe impacts your entire foot from the anthrodial joint all the way back to the heel. So if you can imagine, if you're sitting or standing and you stand up on your toes, the majority of the pressure is placed on your big toes main joint, right? That is the Gingelimi anthrodial joint. It's you can actually feel it, and turf toe itself is a strain or a tear to the ligaments in that area. Um, the issue when we're talking about explosiveness isn't necessarily w- it, you lose the ability to actually press off, right? The explosion is still technically there by physics, but your physical ability, you cannot depress on it. Because if you were to depress on it, it doesn't work right. It's very painful and it locks up. Um, so there's a shallow articulation that goes from the metatarsal to the base of the phalanx, right? That also ends up being injured. So not only now can you not push off, you can't even really start moving side to side. So you not only aren't able to move forward, you're not able to move laterally. So if I think this was his left toe, right, Blue, or six, either one.
Yeah, his left toe, left greater toe.
So like he's right-handed but left-footed, so his natural pivot will be his right foot. He jabs with his left, so every time he jabs, he presses down, lifts up to jab, which presses down, which lifts up and comes back and presses down. So every time he's done that is basically a mechanism of injury or impact to that same our arthrodial joint that I was referring to earlier. So like he cannot avoid it. It is built into his game, and that's really the biggest concerning factor. The player that comes most to mind that had to deal with turf toe uh, in this manner that lost a lot of their explosion was Joakim Noah, which turned from turf toe also into severe plantar fasciitis. All right, your medical your basic A&P kinesiology class of the day is now over. We'll go to JF who has his hands up. We'll go across the room to see what else they want to add in here, and then we'll get to the next game.
Yeah, good morning, Chris. Good morning, HoopSpaces, and good morning, Summer Hayek. God damn. Yeah, shouts out to Isaiah Wong. He's probably one of the oldest guys in NCAA right now, and he's still dropping buckets. So we beat BC. We're 16th right now. We only got 2 losses, so I'm waiting for that push that the NCAA gives us into the top 10. Moving on. Why they call it technical foul on Jose Alvarado for pointing down Luke Cornett? I mean, we got to stop bailing out the Boston Celtics when they're playing at home. Like for real, Chris. Like that was just kind of nasty. I think they would have been. I think that team is good. I'm really surprised that CJ McCullough is actually. Well, I can't say I'm not surprised, but I am surprised that he's doing what he's doing. After leaving Dame Lillard, I didn't think his offensive productivity was going to be as high as it is right now. That's just being honest. And you know, I think we every time I talk about the Boston Celtics, you know, the conversation always comes up, and I think last night's game was a good indicator to continue that conversation. Jalen Brown might be better than Jason Tatum, Chris. I mean, you talked about Jason Tatum's points, but you didn't talk about Jalen Brown's 41. So I'm here to give Jalen Brown his credit. He dropped 41. There's a lot of guys who aren't doing that, you know, and is considered a second person on their team. So I consider him number one. He's an all star, and yeah, I'm ready to have that discussion again.
We tried this before, man. Celtics fan do not like this. It's also it alludes to the reason why he was number 4 on my MVP big board, right? Like Jalen Brown is going to take votes away from him just because of the same argument JF made. That's pretty dope. Jay, what you got? Jay the Wakandan.
Oh, nothing, man. Good win by the Grizzlies last night. Good morning. Hope you feel better, Chris. Uh, that's about it. I haven't had a chance to watch the Pelicans Celtics replay. I am halfway done with the Bucks Hawks game, and this version of the Bucks shooting like this is amazing. I don't know how sustainable it is, but we'll
It's
get to it
not.
when we
It's
get
not.
to it.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I got harangued when I asked if the Bucks championship window was closed or closing, and people are like, "Well, if you have Giannis, the window's open. Not if you go 3 for 10 and get 7 points. I don't care if you get 18 boards and 10 assists. If Giannis ain't scoring at least 25, they ain't winning a 7-game series. Hey, let's just be honest. Um, Chris Middleton's injuries is something that I think isn't really being spoken up about enough because they just don't have the production to replace him. Pat Connaughton got the start next to Grayson Allen. They combined to average to post less than what Middleton averages. So if you look at that, then they had to rely on Javon Carter to give them 13 points off the bench. Just ask Nets fans how that well that worked last year. um, Shout out Marjan Beauchamp. He is Wes Matthews 2.0. He's gonna have a 13-year career and be better than expected.
Oh, absolutely. They also need to free Jordan Wara. Um,
No, you don't. He can't shoot.
have you seen this roster?
I
Half the
have.
roster can't
He
shoot.
can't shoot, and he can't. If
But
he can't beat them in practice, why should he get game minutes? Let me ask you it that way.
because if you look at a player's ability or developmental curve, right? George Hill is like 6'3", 6'4", crazy
But he didn't
wingspan.
play though.
I understand. Or even Wes Matthews, 6'4", 6'5". Okay, cool. Warriors a legit 6'8". And if you go ahead and play him 20 minutes a night over the next 45 games, he will get better. Now, will he be better than what quote unquote what you quote unquote trust Wes Matthews to do? Maybe, maybe not. But the thing is that if you were if you're in a position the Bucks are in where you're kind of hoping for a Christmas miracle with Chris Middleton's injury, um, you might as well ride Giannis's greatness and develop Wara and the other guy you just mentioned. I'm blanking. Um,
Beauchamp.
Boltron. Yeah. You might as well develop them. You might as well give them both. Anywhere between 12 to 20 minutes a night over that
Well,
40-game stretch,
he,
and then
he
over the summer, you know what you got.
here's my counter argument. They started the season giving him uh 16 to 19 minutes per game. He shot 33.7%.
Okay. All I hear is the only way up. It's only up from here.
the
That's all I hear.
the biggest problem is he's a tweener.
Yes.
That's the problem. And he is more of a
Yes.
power forward than he is a small forward, but he can't get power forward minutes because Giannis and Portis. So
Correct.
when they try to put him in at small forward, he can't give you um, the consistent shooting that's needed in that offense. So they put in Pat Connaughton, who can't give you consistent shooting in that offense, but jumps really high.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying is that if I'm the Bucks, I know Giannis has the ability to collapse the paint. I then tell Wara, we're gonna for this year, really don't want you shooting the open jumpers. I want you to see it as a runway to the rim. I want you to jump into somebody's chest, put it off the glass, and just be a free throw merchant. And he has the frame to do that. I think he has the athleticism to do that. But that would require Mike Budenholzer to let go of this fantasy of running um, an NBA team like it's the movie Hoosiers. And
Well, he doesn't have a choice. Look. The Bucks have one chance and one chance only, and that is to put Grayson Allen and some other player to equal like 11 to 12 million dollars, and then they would have to add 4 draft picks because they don't have any first until 2028. So they'd have to add like 4 second rounders to get a player that can help. Like Terrence Ross would be perfect in this offense from
that's true.
Orlando,
Yeah, that's true.
and he
But
makes 11 mil.
yes, he does. Um, it, it's
PJ
just,
Tucker.
stop it. Rest up. Don't even use that. Don't just say you're you're fighting through too much to bring up PJ Tucker.
Yeah, right. Like PJ Tucker's now making me cough, and he doesn't even know I exist.
Mm-mm.
No, like, but that's it. Like, and I noticed that in the beginning of the season that the margins were just too short for Milwaukee to compete. Like they weren't going to be healthy, and like you said, they're going to have to hope for a Christmas miracle with Middleton. Um, Drew looks to be better, but he doesn't look healthy. But he looks better.
Yeah, no, I think the last Drew has played a lot of basketball over the last 2.5 calendar years, and I think that
He's
once again,
32, by the way. Did you know that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the last 2.5 years they have that deep finals run, in a condensed schedule post bubble. Then he plays in the Olympics that summer, doesn't rest, comes back because the NBA starts on time. So then you get an abbreviated off season compared to last summer. Then you have another deep playoff run, and that's a lot, especially like you said on a post 28, 29 year old body. Especially the way Drew Holiday plays, like it's always this chest to chest, very physical brand of defense. Plus, he has to carry um, more offensive load than designed because of Chris Middleton's injury. And I think all that's catching up to him. I think if there's a way for the Bucks to kind of rest him down the stretch, do that. And yeah, you may go from being a top 4 seed to a top 6 seed. Um, but a rejuvenated uh, Drew Holiday would be worth it. And again, even if you drop from 6 to 7 by giving Jordan Wara 20 minutes a game, I think in the playoffs it'll be worth it because then your bench won't be so short. Because that's the other thing I'm looking at. This team is Mike Budenholzer really going to go into the playoffs with a 7 man rotation or 8 man rotation?
Yes.
Because yeah, that's and that's not going to do
If
anybody
if
any
if
good
Mid
either.
if Middleton is healthy, it's Lopez, Giannis, Middleton, Allen, Holiday, Connaughton, Portis off the bench, and then more than likely whoever wins out between Joe Ingles, Marjan Beauchamp, and whomever else is left over.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think
Neither do I, which is why I ask again: is the Bucks window closing?
I don't think the Bucks window is closed. I think this iteration of the Bucks has reached its ceiling. I was kind of hinting about it this summer that maybe the Bucks should look into trading Chris Middleton in a 2-for-1 deal. But this was getting reports in the summer that of course he's going to play in the preseason and all that stuff, right? So I was thinking like a trade with Dallas where Luca would get a certified two, and the Bucks would get like a TJ Hardaway Jr., Dinwiddie, and like Bertans just to lengthen the amount of NBA bodies that Mike Budenholzer would have at his disposal.
They don't, but you'd have to convince the team to pick up Middleton for that. That ain't happening.
Well, here's the thing. I know Mark Cuban doesn't like going into the luxury tax, but the idea to sell Cuban on it was again this was the summer when we thought Chris Middleton was healthy because the Bucks were telling us he's healthy. Um, the idea was that because we didn't know what Christian Wood was going to be. So the idea would have been Luca, Middleton, Wood, legit three. See what that feels like for a season, and then you have options. If you don't want to sign Wood, you can trade him. He's expiring. If Chris doesn't work out, whether he opts in or not, you try to move $40 million worth of salary, right? And so, but it gives Dallas an ability to reset a roster around Luca.
I I I
And that
I
was the idea.
unfortunately am now starting to think that the Mavs are in more trouble than what we actually realize because they're starting to win. The Hawks
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
are in that boat as well. They are now
Yeah.
19-22. They are now just a half a game better than Chicago. And
Hmm.
you know what I say when I talk about Chicago. I just do not trust the Chicago Bulls. I don't care if they're healthy. I just do not trust them. Yet here we are. Do we trust the Atlanta Hawks?
Oh, absolutely not. Like,
Uh,
no. Why would we?
well, I mean, they have two top 20 guards, and uh, I don't know. Usually this is where Alex would come in and espouse the Hawks propaganda, but the propaganda hasn't been propagating this season. JF, what are your thoughts here? Do you trust the Hawks? And also, in the news the last couple of days, the naming rights for Miami Stadium has been yanked by a judge this time from the FTX deal. We'll get into that with you. Go ahead, JF. Floor is yours.
Yeah, so starting with the Heat and their name change, the city of Miami actually has control of what happens to the arena. So the arena's name is back to the arena. It's probably going to be mixed up with Carnival Cruise Lines or something, but yeah, I don't think that the Bang Bros was such a good look for the city of Miami, even though it kind of lines up with what we kind of represent down here, free city and everything like that. So not sure why they didn't take that deal, but there is a Heat game on tonight, and tomorrow I will be doing another segment of the Heat and Five reviews and recaps, so you can go ahead and check that out on the HoopSpaces YouTube. But you asked me if I trust the Hawks. Chris, it's looking like the way to make it to the playoffs is to stay above 500. The Hawks are, what, 2 to 3 games below 500. I don't think Nate McMillan can find the proper adjustments, even if we see Trey Young and DeJounte Murray to start, doing what they need to do. I think the whole construct of the team is a little bit off. Uh, who's the backup center? Because I think the backup center does a little bit better job than Clint Capella, even though he's not as
Oh,
consistent.
Onyeka Okongwu. And
Yeah,
I said that he would replace Clint Capella in the starting lineup after Christmas. And then you know what I found out about him, JF?
what's up?
He's not 6'10, he's 6'8.
So I figured he was around that because when he goes against Bam, he doesn't look as tall. And I'm like, wait, hold on. All fives look tall against Bam. So that does make sense. But I still think he should start. I mean, it's not as bad as seeing PJ Tucker at the five when he was with the Houston Rockets. So they could make it work because he does provide good defense and he does provide good rebounding, which they need really badly. And I think they're missing another shooter on the wing. And this is, I think, where it goes back to our conversation yesterday about, is a wing important? You see, the Atlanta Hawks have, what, two of the top 10 guards on their team, and it doesn't look like it's any type of formidable type of offense, because I think when we see in Golden State with Steph and Clay is an anomaly, just because they can literally make any shot and they can get open. I don't think DeJounte and Trey have that chemistry, and Nate McMillan can go ahead and make that adjustment to run something like a triple screen for Trey Young or DeJounte. So I think maybe they need to get rid of John Collins as soon as possible to start maneuvering around what they can get and add. I think maybe even a Rudy Gobert might be good over there, so he can start getting some rebounds in it. Because right now, Chris, he's not, his value is going down a lot. It might not even be worth the turkey sandwich at this point. But I think he can rejuvenate his career in Atlanta. And that's where I think that the problem is. There's a lot of bad roster constructions around the league, to a point where if somebody's not doing good, then the whole team doesn't do good. Especially if you look at like the Dallas Mavericks. If Luka doesn't do Luka, then the Dallas Mavericks are probably worse than, or probably as good as, the Detroit Pistons. So I think within this mid season, this mid part of the season, like, or before trade deadline, some the smart teams will make adjustments to go ahead and fix their roster to make it more formidable for the playoffs. But again, if you look at my team, the Heat, does Pat Riley make that move for a four? Just because we are winning with Oladipo coming back, and I think that's where you're talking about the bad things, like when a team is winning when they're not really good, because teams are not going to make that adjustment if they're winning. So that's the only thing I'm looking at right now, but I don't trust the Hawks, Chris, so I'll go ahead and sell them.
All right. I got a poll coming up about the Hawks. Want to give some shout outs down below. If you're just joining us, thank you. Um, Apologize in advance. Still getting over the flu. Have some respiratory issues. So sometimes it'll sound like I'm winded, because I am. Shout outs down below to BJ Bath in the building. Sean with the W holding it down as a guest host a couple of days ago. Wasn't able to pull up yesterday because of work. Let's see who else. Rels Pell's in the building. TJ. I see Evan Moore here as well. Jose, host of 77 Spaces with Rolo and Jazz. Jasmine from Winside is here, and so is Spooner Zeke. Zeke Spoon. If you guys want to increase your Twitter account and you want to be able to find people who actually interact with tweets, Zeke is definitely a follow. I'd vouch for him every day. All you got to do is shoot a follow and tap in when you can. It's real simple. Also, uh, dead serious lacrosse fan and coach. So shout out to anybody who knows. In the DMV, lacrosse is literally a second religion. Be- and for some of y'all who don't know, football probably will be going more towards the way of lacrosse sooner rather than later. We'll go to Jay the Wakandan. I'm going to get this tweet up here, and it's a real simple question: are the Hawks cooked? Because I know that a lot of people are saying the Phoenix Suns were cooked. The difference that I see is that the Phoenix Suns have dealt with an injury of one way of their starting unit or another, whereas the Hawks, for the most part, have been healthy until recently, with Trey Young being out day to day and Clint Capella out. So there you go. We'll get that up here. The answers you can choose are yes, not yet, and Nate McMillan to are the Atlanta Hawks cooked. Jada Wakandan, your thoughts?
Um, yeah, no, it's not so much the Hawks. I don't trust Trey Young. Um, what I wanted to ask while you were talking about teams that are in flux, right, is the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are 3-11 out Devin Booker. For those who are not math inclined, that's a 27% win percentage. For those of you who don't have your standings up, that would make them the fourth worst team in basketball, or professional basketball. My is, who's worse, the Suns without Booker or the Mavs without Luca?
Is Chris Paul healthy?
I don't think so.
Chris
Well, no.
Paul is 38. So,
Well, I'm just.
let's say half and half.
Well, because like even at 38, if Chris Paul's healthy, as long as he's willing to pass the ball to DeAndre Ayton, I'd probably take Phoenix in that matchup.
Hey, that pick and roll's not that bad, Chris. With him and DeAndre Ayton, you got to give him credit.
Chris Paul needs to do a better job, and Chris Paul knows he needs to do a better job. And you can tell Chris Paul, I tell Chris Paul that he needs to do a better job getting DeAndre Ayton the ball.
Yeah, because the Suns are 10-7 without Chris Paul this season. So just
You
just
know
just
what?
so you know.
Is Booker the least valuable, most valuable player?
Yes, when you put in those terms, yes.
Like I have not seen. You know what? I take that back. Joe Johnson was the last player I truly saw hold this title. If y'all don't know, Joe Johnson is Mr. ISO. Isometric was named after Joe Johnson. If you look up isometric in the basketball dictionary, you see a picture of Joe Johnson, and he's the only player that I can think of in relative recent times that was always the least valuable, most valuable player on the team. We'll go to Sean with a W. Appreciate you again or hosting when I wasn't able to on Tuesday. Appreciate you trying yesterday, but work sucks sometimes. What you got today, Sean?
Oh, thank you. No problem, Chris. And I would have, if I seen it earlier, I would have tried it earlier. Maybe we got an hour in. I just have one question. I'm gonna go back down to go back down to listeners. Um, right now, right now, not in the career, not talent level, not skill level, not tween hezzy, not bad. Right now, who's a better player, Dejounte Murray or Jalen Brunson? That's all I have for today.
I see what you're doing.
What
I
was the question?
Who's
Jalen
better,
Brunson or who?
Dejounte Murray or Jalen Brunson? Right now, and emphasizing on right now, because he knows if we don't emphasize right now, the answer is obviously Dejounte Murray. But right now, it's Jalen Brunson because he's performing better. And more importantly, the Knicks are performing better. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if right now is the last week in this Jalen Brunson, um, and I have no issues with saying that.
I like how this is like literally the only time he says I'm gonna say this and go down, and he actually goes down. He said it, he went down, and he knows what he did. Good job, Sean. And also, Sean, I'm not doing the show tomorrow. I'm just not. Um, Going back to the Bucks and Hawks. Hawks are 19-22. They're 11-9 at home. Road record is worse. Here's the Hawks depth chart. Trey Young, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Clint Capella are your starters. Bogdanovich is your sixth man. Onyeka Okongwu is your first forward, our front court player off the bench. Here are the players where you need to have, wins at the margin, so to speak. Aaron Holiday is your backup point. AJ Griffin, good rookie, but still a rookie, is your small forward. Jalen Johnson, who got zero run last year, is your backup power forward starting to come on. I happen to really like Jalen Johnson's game. I just don't like Jalen Johnson as a player yet. Um, he's one of those players when you watch, it's like Cam Reddish. Can he put it all together? Because if he can, look out. Recently, he's on a good streak, like 13 and 12 points. But he can play himself out of the rotation really quick, and he's a very up and down practice player, is what I've heard as well. Uh, are we looking at a full reset for the Atlanta Hawks? Because the GM stepped down, or the president of player operations stepped down, and Travis Link, Landry Fields, Nick Legend, Landry Fields, Toronto Raptors legend Landry Fields is the new GM. Nate McMillan was not a Landry Fields guy, so I'm assuming even if he were to make it through the end of the season, if Landry were to assume the job full time, Nate's gone. I think Nate's gone either way. But if we're looking at a full rebuild, or a full retooling, who even stays? Because everybody else would be gone if you trade John Collins, right? Like, who else stays? That would mean that everybody that Trey came in with is gone. You brought in Clint Capella from Houston. You brought in Bogdanovich from Sacramento. You brought in DeJounte from San Antonio. Everybody else you drafted along with Trey would be gone once you trade John Collins, who arrived 1 year before Trey. So I'm asking. Oh yeah, and they picked up Derek Favors. Shout out Derek Favors. He was in Atlanta because he's from there, played his college ball there, and they needed a body. I'm asking, like, are we looking at the end of what was supposed to be a great 7 to 10 year Atlanta run? There's the question for that. Rockets and Kings played last night, 135-115. It was a very close game, except that it wasn't close because if you ask every Rockets fan in their heart of hearts, even when they had the better third quarter, they knew they were going to lose this game. Why? Because Kenyon Martin Jr. Was the best player in the game. 21 points on 9 for 13 shooting off the bench after Kevin Porter Jr. went down with an injury. Alperen Sengun, although he had a 3 by 10, wasn't really effective outside of that because of foul trouble. Jabari Smith Jr. only got 8 shots in 28 minutes. Eric Gordon took the third amount of shots with 12. He had 19 points. It is just bad in Houston. So bad that EK put out their question, when are they going to move off of Steven Silas? And my answer, as soon as Doc Rivers is eligible to become the head coach of the Houston Rockets. Because y'all need some greatness. Ain't nobody better than Doc. Malik, go ahead, Jay. What you got?
Oh no, I was thought we were just about to talk about this Rockets game because I turned it off by halftime. I just couldn't, man. I saw I saw what time Jalen Green was on, and
Yeah.
I only watched the Rockets for Jabari Smith, and I thought he did a decent job in the post, um, in defending. But the Kings offense has a lot of beautiful movement and options, and he did not have a lot of help on the defensive end as far as switching and understanding weak side assignments and all that stuff. So um, I know people are asking like if Sabonis went 9 of 12 with 14 and 9, how did Jabari have a good game? And to my answer is that you just gotta watch. Um,
Yeah, considering that Alperen Sengun is supposed to be guarding him.
yes, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's an absolute mess down there. I couldn't finish.
one
I
of the
just couldn't.
things one of the things that I've found really irritating, and I'm going to ask EK Johnson, resident Rockets fans here on Hoop Spaces, is if you look at Smith and Sengun together, like they work phenomenally well together. They had 19 rebounds total together. The entire team had 48. So that means that they were 4, 5 rebounds away from equaling half of the rebounds. The issue is Sengun is not a defensive presence, and Jabari Smith Jr. is a bad help defender. But they fit, and you can build off of that. Uh, Only if Jalen Green realizes that he's not Reggie Miller with a 10 point, trailing by 10 points in the fourth quarter, every quarter of the game, because there's some shots he takes that you say go back to school because they're bad.
Some, some.
We'll go to EK next. EK, we understand what this is. Halfway through the season, you're 10-31. The now the likelihood of getting to 20 wins is actually on the decrease if you are a gambler. Most sites have them 18 wins for the season. Rough times for H Town. What you got?
Um, Hello, Chris. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Um, can you hear me, Chris? Before I go any further?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Uh, okay, so I watched most of the game because I really didn't have anything else better to do, unfortunately. And I mean, Jalen Green when he gets in that mode of I'm gonna chuck shots early in the shot clock. I'm not gonna look for my teammates. I'm not gonna look to try to initiate any offense because he's not a point guard. He's never been a point guard. And I think Houston Rockets fans and the coaching staff, we've tried to fool ourselves into thinking he is a point guard when he's not, right? So when he does that, you get nights like last night, where he went, I think it was what, 9 for 25 or 26, some just ridiculous, right? I like Kenyon Martin Jr. a lot. I think he and Jay Sean Tate are kind of the same, but I'd rather have him more than Jay Sean Tate at this point. In addition, I do agree with your analysis of Jabari Smith and also Alperen Sengun. I think they play very well together. But like I've been saying, we need to get a coach and we need a point guard who can make a post entry pass, who can run an offense for more than one quarter. That's what we need. We get those two things. I think we go from being a bottom tier, bottom feeding, embarrassing, disgusting watch of a basketball team to being a respectable 30-ish win team next year. That's all it really takes, in my opinion. However, knowing that the front office hasn't necessarily empowered Steven Silas, or maybe Steven Silas is just flying blind at this point because he knows what's coming. Um, Maybe he's like, you know what? Let's just throw Eric Gordon out there for 30 minutes a game so we can continue to devalue himself and then put out a report that we want a first for him. Like, who the hell's going to give us the first for Eric Gordon at this point? Nobody will. Nobody with a brain will, right? So, with that being said, Steven Silas needs to be gone. EG needs to be gone, but he won't be gone knowing this franchise. And we need a solid point guard. We get those three things, I think we'll be okay. Until then, enjoy the 10 to 15 win season, Houston. That's all I got. Makes me sick.
You can hear it in the voice. He's in the third year of a 4-year extension. My guess is he actually finishes out the season because Fertitta is cheap and doesn't want to pay coach not to play. And I don't remember if the fourth year in the contract is guaranteed or not.
It is guaranteed,
Um,
Chris, which is absolute. I'm sorry, I almost cursed.
well, no. All contracts in coaching are guaranteed. I should have used a different word. He can be moved from being a coach and then reassigned in the organization,
Exactly, which is what I
a
was
la
alluding
Alvin
to.
Gentry in
Alvin Gentry.
Sacramento.
Exactly. That I would love that because I think he's a good personality and a good presence for the organization overall. But the team isn't responding to his coaching style, and it's pretty evident if you watch this team on a night in, night out basis. It really is.
Yeah, part of the issue is experience and age, right? And he's older than me. He's about to be 50. Um, but his coaching experience, uh, one could argue, has been sheltered because of his father, the great Paul Silas. And you actually run into that with legacy coaches. I can think of Mr. John Thompson and then his son John Thompson III, who had initial success, but then kind of burnt out. There's other coaches out there too, and it's because coaching is a repetitive grind process. And imagine if you're growing up in a household with a coach, and that coach has the same philosophy, and you coach, you tend to have the same philosophy. And ideally, people are like Steven Silas is a younger coach, fresh face. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you have an old school mentality and philosophy that doesn't necessarily mesh with current and modern basketball. We'll go to Jay, then JF. We got Professor Jay. He'll come up here, but EK, go ahead and reply real quick.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you said, Chris. And like just to kind of cap all of this off, um, I'm only looking forward to getting Scoot in the draft at this point. Like I told you before, I predicted that we would get somewhere between 20 to 25 wins at the beginning of the season. And then last time we talked, I told you I don't know where the other 15 are coming from. I'm going to break it down. I don't know where the other 10 are coming from. I know the betting odds are 18-ish wins. I think we'll get to 19. I think that's my prediction. I think we'll get to 9 more wins on the year. I think 5 to 6 of them will come during the last month of the season because people are resting guys, right? So that gives us maybe 2 to 3 more wins, outlier wins during the bulk of the season, and that's what I've got. And also moving off of NBA, moving off of the Houston Rockets, because honestly, they don't even deserve this conversation. Um, Free the Georgetown Hoyas from Patrick Ewing. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject. I'll give you a point. Um, Someone who grew up watching Big East basketball in the DMV, Georgetown was a team that I saw a lot, and it's been rough. In fact, actually, I think they had a player declare for the transfer portal already, and the season's not even over.
They've had many players. It's a ish show. I don't want to curse. It is
Yeah.
horrible over there. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you keeping the decorum. We'll go to Jay and JF. You'll each get 60 seconds, and then we'll go to Professor J so he can come in and give his thoughts about the Celtics. Then we'll give Malika Walker some time after a reset into the second hour. I want to say thank you to everybody who's made it through. Jay, go ahead. You're up.
Um, I appreciate EK's honesty. I'm sorry that you're this disgusted with your team. Um, Clearly, this team needs real veteran leadership. So I think Danny Green, 3 picks for Jabari Smith, gets it done. More than willing to throw in Xavier Tillman's veteran leadership and play off bona fides. But seriously, I forgot to do it during the good mornings. I don't think I got here in time for the good mornings. Jackson State women's team is running roughshod over the SWAC, and I just want to say that the Jackson State Lady Tigers are the best women's basketball team in the state of Mississippi. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. JF. Oh, wait. By the way, Steven Silas also went to Brown University. Don't ask me how I know, but I know. JF, 60 seconds.
Yeah, so Chris, with the lineup of Green, Porter, start Martin, and then Sangoon and Jabari Smith. How is that not at least a 30-win team? Now, my question
because they don't
is
have
it
a point guard.
so? Do you see any way of James Harden going back to Houston?
Sure.
Who would you
Yeah.
take without getting rid of those five that I just said?
No, well, technically nothing. He can sign there if he opts out the contract. I believe it was a 1-and-1.
Oh, okay,
Um,
gotcha.
and so like, and he's already said he's now more in favor of short term deals to provide him flexibility because of course he's getting up there. But he could definitely go back. Like you have to remember, Houston had nobody after Elijah, and then Yao Ming was there with Tracy McGrady, but then they both kind of had shortened careers due to injury in Houston, and then they had nobody until James Harden, and he brought Houston to the limelight, and I think most fans, we can ask EK, still have, except for like the last year and a half, still have thoughts, about James Harden and what he did for the franchise.
Absolutely, absolutely right. But we also cannot forget the immortal Kevin Martin. Can't forget
Steve
him.
Yeah.
franchise.
Okay. Well, you cannot forget about the immortal Kevin Martin. I will. 6'7", spindly frame, left-handed scorer du jour for Minnesota and Houston and Sacramento.
So
Shout
they
out.
weren't.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
my bad, Chris. But they
No, go
weren't
ahead.
competitive with Steve Francis.
No.
I forgot who was on that team.
As a University of Maryland fan, I remember when Steve Francis was drafted, and somebody was like, "Oh man, he's gonna do so well," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's gonna have highlights."
The franchise.
We'll go to Professor A. TJ. Look, you just salty that UNC lost to Virginia. It's okay. Professor J, you get 60 seconds to talk about your Celtics. We'll do a quick recap, and then we're going to talk to Malika Walker of the Rewind Pod.
Yeah, we're the first team to get to 30. Jalen Brown. I just want to give a shout out to him. I know a lot of the uh, fan base don't appreciate him because they're chanting MVP for Jason Tatum when he had 41 last night. And then what else? We're gonna get 31 tonight. So that's all I gotta say.
All right. Appreciate it. Take care of your little brother. Um, fan Suzuki Bleacher Mob with the question: what's up with the Rockets rebuild? I thought it was going better than the Thunder. I like that. Give a point to Bleacher Mob.
What's going on is that Sam Decker is not walking through that door.
Ooh, Sam Decker is not walking through that door. All right, the gauntlet's been laid down, ladies and gentlemen. Obscure Houston Rockets who are not walking through the door to save the season is the game. You get a point for every correct answer. If you get a wrong answer, we will ridicule you and make fun of you because that is what we do here on social media, apparently. But next, we have this read that I need to do. First, let me go ahead and say, if my voice is off-putting to you, my apologies. I am still getting over the flu. The flu itself, by the way, flu shots save lives, guys. Get a flu shot. The flu itself isn't what's wrong with me. I have an immune disorder. So when I got the flu, fluid built up in my lungs. So what you're hearing essentially is walking pneumonia, which sucks, by the way. um, but we're here because when we started this, I wanted to make this as close to possible an everyday occurrence, so that we would have a place where we can get together and share our love and passion for the game of basketball. And like along this time and journey, people were like, you'd be more successful if you did football or if you did all sports or if you did this. And I'm like, that's cool. You're probably right. But I'm here to talk ball because honestly, that's the sport that I pay attention to the most. And so does Slam Goods. And through the grapevine of other great people, they came upon us and they're like, we really like what you're doing. Here's how we can help. And if you want to help me, all you have to do is head over to slamgoods.com and use the promo code HoopSpaces. I get 0 if you purchase anything. except for the fact that they get to see that the community is alive and thriving and love what they're offering in terms of basketball collectibles and apparels, and more importantly, digital and handheld copies of Slam Magazine. That's what I'm telling you to do today. Head over there and check out what Slam the Magazine is. Pick up a digital copy for about $20 a year. Use promo code HoopSpaces and save 15%. And remember, if you do miss any of the show, you can head over to our YouTube channel. It's there in its entirety, unedited for context, powered by audiolabs.io. And if you want to add to the reaction videos that JF Cake is getting ready to do for tomorrow, hit up my man Justin, JP the franchise, and let's get to it. A couple of you already reached out to DM me. That's dope. All I'm going to tell you is reach out to him. There you go. That's the read, ladies and gentlemen. Promo code HoopSpaces over at slamgoods.com. While you're over there, check out the pickup card game and pick up a copy for yourself. It's definitely worth it. $25. Save $3.75. And with that $3.75, get yourself a cup of coffee. And if you need a mug, go to the HoopSpaces merch store and buy a mug. Those things are nice. We'll go to Malika Walker of the Rewind Pod, ladies and gentlemen. We met on Clubhouse almost 2 years ago, and we have progressed through the world of social drop-in audio. And what we found is that there's a lot of people like us who just like to have really intimate conversations and discussions about the players that we love. One of the players that both Malika and I love is Dr. J for different reasons, obviously. One from the Nets side and one from the Sixers side, but both from the side of a fan seeing how players are developing outside of the court. If it wasn't for Dr. J, much of the superstars today would not have what they have in terms of endorsement speakerships and entertainment deals. Malika, thank you for being able to come in. Good morning.
Good morning. And I love Dr. J's entire career. Like I'm a fan of the game. Um and I don't know if people saw that funny thing about Joy D'Angela where she was acting out different types of fans on NBA Twitter. And one of them was fan of the game. No, I'm a Nets fan. But I enjoy watching all of the games. I enjoy watching all teams. But the Dr. J space was special.
Um,
But I just wanted to come up say good morning. My Nets are about to go through a stretch of a month without KD, so I will be watching with bated breath over the stretch that we have coming up. Curious to see if how what Jack Vaughn does with his rotations, and TJ Warren. It's time for him to get more playing time. Ben Simmons scares the shit out of me right now because we need him to play consistently well. And I am going to be honest, and I hate that JFK is hearing me say this. I don't have that confidence at this point in time. I'm just being honest.
Let's go,
I need to see it.
Malika.
I need to see it on the court because we need him to perform. But I'll be happy on this road trip if we come out, long as we come out with a winning record on this road, on this these stretch of games. That's still better than what we did when KD went out last year. I don't think it'd be like that. That was atrocious. We need to show him and ourselves as a team, like I'm on the team, you know what I mean, that we can do our thing without KD, string together some wins. I'm worried about the length we're going to have on the court without KD, but we'll see what happens. So to get that out the way, we play Boston tonight. Long as I'm not blowing out, I'm good. That's where I'm at with the Boston game. They're our Achilles heel, and without KD, we'll see what happens there. But I put out a poll yesterday, or day before yesterday, that got a lot of responses and I'm gonna start a series for the Rewind on injured players that just didn't get to their potential. I'm trying to come up with a name. I'm gonna start out with Grant Hill. Um, but there's a lot of talk on Penny, so I'm gonna have a room on Penny individually coming up and Brandon Roy. So there appears to be an appetite to talk about these players, so that's coming. In the college coaches room, that's going to take me a little longer to develop. That's coming. And Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. That's coming February 7th.
Man, lots of
So
stuff.
that's what I have now and coming up. And Grant Hill on Tuesday. That's it.
All right.
That's my
I,
whole spiel.
you know, I struggle with the Grant Hill convo
Are you there,
because
Chris?
yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Well, if he's not there until he comes
Yeah,
back,
he's
No,
there,
he's
Jay.
there.
Malika.
He's there.
You can't hear
He's
him.
there.
Yeah. Malik
Oh,
can't hear
I
me?
can't hear him.
No, Malika can't hear you, Chris.
Oh, that sucks.
Okay, I will leave and come back because I
Yeah.
Oh
think
no, I
she.
can be the conduit.
Nah,
It's
she
fine.
can leave and come back. And you
I'm
don't
sorry.
need to. No, just tell her to come back, Jay.
So
It's
do
okay.
Chris
you
says,
guys hear him?
yeah, we can hear him. Chris says to just leave and come back. He'll put you
Yeah,
back
I'm
up.
gonna leave and come back.
Okay.
I struggle with the Grant Hill question, right? A lot of it is I think he has a sentimentality attached to him. And that's not me saying he wouldn't have been a really, really good player. But to me, part of the issue is he was coming after Jordan. And the league was thirsty for faces after Jordan. Um, and people are like, well, how could you say that? Why would you think that? Like, one, he's a Duke guy. Not big on Duke guys being like, superstardom level. If you think about it, if you really think about it, name me the Duke guys that went on to be like super levels of stardom, and there's not as many as other schools. And the other thing was he was not that great of a shooter. He wasn't good from deep. He was like I think maybe a 43% shooting percentage when you took away the rim runs and dunks. And like yeah, I what he was a very tenacious defender, had an all around game, but like maybe he was just what we thought Evan Turner was going to be, which is still a Hall of Fame player. But yeah, I struggle with that one.
Yeah, people told me they struggle with the poll. Some people were like, one guy inboxed me was like, I don't understand why people vote in Tracy McGrady when we got 10 healthy years of Tracy McGrady.
Yeah, I wouldn't have voted
Um,
for Tracy either. That's
and why Derrick Rose is not in the poll. There's only 4 spots. And I
I-
wasn't picking active players. Like he's still active. Like Klay Thompson could have been in there. You know what I mean? Like, but there's so many players impacted by injury, which is why I was thinking about this series. And there's only 4 spots. So I just picked a random 4, but I shouldn't have Bill Walton with that lineup. That wasn't fair to him. But yeah, I'm gonna have rooms coming up. And first I'm starting with Grant Hill on Tuesday. But it was interesting seeing all of Penny love. I love Penny too. But it was interesting. But yeah, Tracy won that poll. So I
did
put
you?
it up in a jumbotron so you can see
Yeah,
how close Penny, Grant Hill, and Tracy McGrady were in the poll. Really close.
Tr- Tracy Ellis Ross went to Brown University, and that makes a whole lot of sense to me because she has never been funny to me
Chris, you don't gotta be funny.
ever.
That is so random. Where did that come from?
I'm going down a Brown University rabbit hole because Stephen Silas is a alumnus.
Oh, this is what I wanted to say on Houston on the Rockets. I like what you guys are building with Houston, Ek. I like Sengun a lot. I like what he brings to that team along with the pieces. Y'all really need the right coach next season with such a young squad. And I agree, Eric Gordon should be gone. It'd be better for the team if he's not there. Um, but you got some good pieces there to build around. So I definitely like what you guys have. But I want Hornets to get Scoop. So
L-
I don't think we're gonna get I don't think they're
Lisa,
gonna get Victor. So I want them to get Scoop. Or Thompson
Lisa,
Twin.
Lisa Loeb, Grammy award-winning children's musician, is from graduated Brown University.
Chris.
This is a
It just
very
makes
go
it
ahead,
makes
EK.
Coach Silas look even worse. It makes him look even worse. Keep on going down the list. You're going to see a
Oh,
whole bunch of people that have
so
accomplished so much in their respective careers, and then there's Coach Steven Silas.
so
Way to stick the knife in.
it's an
Should he be
int-
coaching just a different
no,
young team? Should
no,
he get
no.
another
He shouldn't
shot?
be head. He shouldn't be a
He
head
shouldn't be a
coach.
head coach, Malika. He shouldn't be a head coach.
He should be
Shouldn't
an
be.
assistant coach until like it,
So an
he
assistant
should
coach for a while.
he
Assistant
should
coach
go
for a
he
while
should
longer.
go to the G League and coach at G League if he wants to be a head coach. Like
Without question.
there hasn't like he if he wants to be a developmental coach because that's what he said he wants to be. You can't necessarily be a developmental coach at the pro level with success, especially if it's in a rebuild because like development uh doesn't it's not conducive with winning, right? And I think that's part of the issue that they have is that they're trying to say they're going to develop these dudes as well as win, and like it's just not going to happen. Um, there's a lot of people. Did you know Chris Berman graduated Brown?
Chris Vernon.
Yeah. Yaya DaCosta.
I feel bad for Steven Silas, man.
Why?
I don't. Yeah, he got to live his dream. He got
He,
to live his dream. It's just
so
he's just not good at it.
so this goes to my
He walked
argument.
in with the intermittent effort player, just
He
messing over the
didn't he
team.
didn't walk in. He was there.
No, remember he started. That was his first season, and then the intermittent effort player came into camp overweight and like bad talking to players, getting them off to a
Well,
horrible start.
that's because they wanted to, and Harden didn't want anything to do with the rebuild.
That my point is that was his
Like
first. That was his first opportunity. He didn't even. I just think that he was. I don't think he was put in the best situation.
well,
Sometimes coaches need the right situation, and it
I've
started
been
off
said
bad.
that. Yeah, no, I've been said that. Like he went there
Yeah.
to lose. He's never going to get a head coach. I said the same thing about Jacques Vaughn. After Jacques Vaughn was done in Orlando, he was never going to get a head coaching position without the interim tag. He got the interim tag. Brooklyn is doing well, and now if he gets the head coaching position, it's solely because of the production of the players that he's coached on an interim basis. But he went to Orlando because no other team would hire him as a head coach, and like nobody hired him afterwards. And I say that to transition over to some Nets talk with Brooklyn Netcast, who's also up here. Netscast, good morning. I hope you are doing well. You have the Nets coming up, and Ben Simmons has sizable size 13s to fill tonight, or is it 14s? I don't know. What are we looking forward to in the world of Brooklyn basketball today?
What am I looking forward to today? Ben Simmons. I just want to see him in the stage. Thank you, appreciate it. I want to see him in his
He
stage without
scares me,
KD.
Netcast.
This
He
I think
scares
this
me,
is very
Caleb.
important. No, definitely. I mean, there's definitely some things to be scared about, but I will say this is the one thing I'm not worried about is defensively. He's been really good. Like I think people are kind of underplaying the defensive aspect. Like if anybody watched the Pelicans Nets game, the only reason CJ McCollum didn't actually demolish us that game and kill us in the fourth quarter was because when we had Ben on him, he was on lockdown. So, like, it's just little things like that that I've loved to see from him. But I need to see the offensive aggression pick up big time. It's kind of where I'm at right now. So, we'll see what happens. I'm very excited for TJ Warren and Claxton. I can't wait to see them both take on bigger offensive roles. And, also Kyrie as the number one option again is always fun. I got to say this the one good thing about Kyrie's the number one option in Boston is if anybody's good at getting out of being double teamed, it's Kyrie Irving. So I guess that kind of plays into our hand tonight to some extent because it's really just, I think, if there's one player I think is impossible to trap or damn near close to it, I think it's Kyrie Irving. So I'm excited to see how it works, but I think Ben will be more aggressive. His best offensive stretch was without Kyrie Irving, and I think we'll see kind of a rendition of that, something similar as to which he's forced to be more aggressive and does play better offensively. And I am excited. I think this is a very big time for this team to grow, for everybody to kind of extend themselves and really show, oh, I can play much better than you've seen before with this bigger and more improved role. And I think you'll see that with Claxton too. So I'm excited.
All right. Claxton quietly developing into a top 3 defensive center, and probably I would put top 25 front court player.
Yeah, I
He's
said he's a
coming
top
up.
10 center right now. I think that's fair. It's kind of hard to argue against it
Eh,
right now.
I don't
Like,
know.
eh.
Like it's hard because like the defense he plays isn't traditional post
Oh, it's weird.
defense.
I
He's
know. Yeah.
Yeah. So like top 10 center, I don't know. But what I do know is what he provides in terms of defensive flexibility is hard to come by.
It's
What are
our
we
whole
looking
defensive
at?
identity.
Yeah. What are we looking at in terms of contract extensions? Have you heard anything?
No, I talked about this yesterday though. How I think like people thought it was crazy, but like 490 seems like a good number for him. Like long term, lock in the 23-year-old for his 25 season through 29. He's another year on his deal. But yeah, I think like that's something that's got to be done as soon as possible. You obviously can't till the off season, but yeah, get him like that 22.5 million. Because down the line, down in like 2029, that number doesn't sound so bad. I promise. Like that's why I keep telling everybody is 22 million a year. That isn't bad, and he's gonna improve. You can't tell me a 23-year-old who's improved every single year, and especially this year, won't continue to improve a little bit across the board. And like he can add, he has the physical capabilities of adding moves to his bag.
Mm. You're driving and you're losing signal coverage.
Because of how
Yeah, that sucks. We'll bring him back. JF, we'll go to you real quick. We got Joe, EMS down below. We'll get Malika's thoughts as well. Shout out to Next Kingdom AJ, who's in the building. If you need some Nets on your timeline, fantastic follow along with Netscast here. You can catch Next Kingdom over on YouTube, as well as here on pre and post game spaces with Cash Spears and Flopaganda, Saint, Next Kingdom AJ, Brandon, Malika, and a whole bunch of other notables from Nets Twitter, including the infamous T Rexy. I'm gonna give a shout out to. I love T Rexy. Like I T Rexy is exactly how I remember New York. Cedric, Sean, T Rexy, couple others. Like it's a very noticeable speech pattern, and I miss it. I miss it. I tell you, out here in the Midwest, everybody's nice for the most part, but they lack that accent, right? They all sound like they're from Wisconsin at times. It's really weird. Netcast, you back with us?
Yeah, he might be still in the
Yeah.
cloud, but I just want to say
Hey,
real
hey,
quick.
Chris. I'm sorry.
I just want to say real quick, yeah, my thoughts. I share my thoughts in tonight's game, but and how I felt about us at least having a winning record during the stretch. KD's out, and tonight, I want it to be a tight one. Of course, I want us to get the W, but I need us to show effort on both sides of the court. I need Ben to step up on the offensive end for us to have it. I feel like he needs to do that for us to have a good chance on this stretch of games.
All right. Go ahead, Joe, and then we'll go to JF. We'll get a quick reset. We're only going to be going for about another 30 minutes, everybody. Good morning.
I I just like because I'm at work real quick. I just wanted to shout you out because saying we've been me and you've been talking about this for the beginning of the season and you called it out. You actually said that saying well, give us 35 something games. We're gonna be we're gonna be formidable. But and you also said I remember one day you also said that watch when the media comes around. And I was just thinking about yesterday. I just saw Magic Johnson and Stephen A. Smith call us the biggest threat to Boston. So I just thought about you. So I just wanted to shout you out. But saying I'm gonna go back to listening. I'm at work right quick.
Appreciate it. They have a job. The media's job is to highlight notable stories of interest. The easiest way to do so is to do exactly what they did, which is basically do a 130. We won't go a full 180, but a 130, and shift the story from disappointment to overcoming to challenging, to potentially usurping the Boston Celtics. Um, I've got nothing against it. Like it's what they do. Like it's cool. I don't mind it.
The funny thing about it is that you remember in the beginning of the season they was talking about the KD request and Kyrie Irving is not good enough to saying to lead a team back to a championship. What were they gonna do? But as soon as we started winning, all that went away because Coach Vaughn. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought that was so funny. Like that's the only reason why we wasn't they was predicting us to be the play-in team and stuff like that because of the coach. I was like, that's so we got a coaching change now. Everything's different. I thought that was hilarious too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's an anti Steve Nash bias uh, for very many different reasons, right? I'm not here trying to say it's a racial thing. It's not. He just happens to be white. But it dates back to when a lot of the players believed that Kobe Bryant deserved the MVP, and I think even in media there's a low level of bias against Steve Nash as well. Because if you look at what Steve Nash did, he didn't fail. He just didn't win the way the Nets, wanted. that's and that's just really a testament to the amount of talent that KD has. Because without KD, the Nets would be a dumpster fire. So if you are a Nets fan, what you probably should do today is take a good 30 seconds out of your day and just send Kevin Durant an appreciation post. Because, like, for real, he's not only did he likely save your season, he likely saved your franchise. Like, understand what I mean by that. Had he really left, what are you? Think about that.
I mean, they might be the Houston Rockets, hoping and praying that Dantas Montejunas comes through that door, which he is not. And shout out to my man Tiberius. He wanted to let the room know that Carl Herrera is not walking through that door as well.
I love it. I love it. Although I thought there would have been a different player that TJ would have stated. Kind of shocked that he didn't. All right, we'll get to there. Maybe he'll figure it out. It's a Tar Heel, so you know. We'll go to 6 of the 12, then JF. 6 of the 12. What you got?
Hey man, I just want to kind of piggyback off of what you said about KD. I think sometimes we take for granted on what we're actually watching and witnessing. I for one was not a huge fan of KD after he left OKC. Being up 3-0, 3-1 in a series against Golden State, then going to Golden State. I was kind of bad mouthing that decision because that was back in the NBA where you just don't do that. But we can't sit back and not appreciate how great Kevin Durant actually is. I mean, he's probably going to go down as top two, top three best go get a bucket scorers the NBA has ever seen, from any area of the court. So I always appreciate watching him play basketball. Also, I wanted to mention something about Ben Simmons because I don't understand it, man. Like I said, being an LSU fan, I watched him in college every game with Antonio Blakeney. And then I even watched him in high school. He came down to New Orleans and played in the New Orleans Classic on the West Bank. So I got to see him play in high school as well, and um in high school and in college, like he attacked the basket, used his big frame to get to the rim, dunk on people, whatever he had to do, and like just watching him right now in the NBA, it's like yes, he is a very elite defender. He can literally guard 1 through 5 on the court. He's a perfect guy to switch with. That will never affect your defense, but it's like I don't know what has to click for him. And whenever the Pelicans played the Nets, I'm pretty sure he had like 5 or 6 attempts at the rim. I think he only finished one of them for a make. Um, but that was the last time I've actually seen him go to the rim and really try to use his size to his advantage. I just like that's the one thing I don't get about. And I know everybody says the exact same thing, but it's just like, what do you think? Obviously, it's mental, right? I mean, like it's not his physical abilities, but like, what has to happen for him to like just step up and be like, okay, I am a 6'10" freak and I can probably jump over everybody, in the gym. I have handles, I have strength, I have size. Like, what is it that he has to do to click to want to be that player? Because like if he's playing at a high level on offense, like he doesn't have to go out there and score 25 points per game, but if he's scoring in between 12 to 16 points per game, like Brooklyn Nets are a dangerous, dangerous team in the East when you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie on your same team. So I just want to get a taste for the room of like what does he have to do to like reach that element of his game, because he can do it. I mean, I've seen him do it before. It's just like I don't know if like Philly broke him or what the case may be, or his free throw attempts or whatever it is. But I would just like to know, like, from the rest of the room, like, what does he have to do to reach that point of his career where he like takes that next step?
I honestly, he's progressing to about where I thought he would be. I thought he might be scoring just a tad bit more. Um, all he needs to do is understand that he doesn't have to defer. He has a natural mismatch versus 65% of the people who end up guarding him. The issue with him is deferment is his main avenue. Uh, a lot of it is because the adulation he received when he was younger was when he deferred, because he would defer and then he would make a dunk and everybody would cheer. Um, I've seen him hit 3 pointers in practice. I've seen him hit free throws in practice. Like, talent is there. But the attitude of deferment is sometimes a disease. And like there have been other players where coaches have been like adamant, like you need to get yours a little bit more. Tyrese Halliburton is one of those dudes. Like word out of camp and sack was like there were times that they didn't like the fact that he deferred to De'Aaron Fox, and this is all obviously like the pro Halliburton side. Um, yeah, no, it's really just a mentality of wanting to be able to impose his physical will on a player who is either smaller in stature or less athletic, and that's something that there is no way a coach can get that. That has to come from the player. Usually, they have sports psychologists to help through the anxiety levels and other stuff. But hey, I will say this. I think by the end of the year, though, we're going to see Ben Simmons back to being around the 16, 8-8 player that we were used to. No updates on the Halliburton injury as of yet. Indiana's notorious in not really speaking. There's a couple people that I'll reach out and ask, and as soon as I know anything, I'll put it out there. We'll go to JF, then Jay, then Chris, and then we'll get ready to close out at 12 o'clock so that I can catch my breath. Appreciate everybody. Good morning.
Oh man, Chris, it's a lovely day when we get to slander some Ben Simmons. Look, first things first. One thing Ben Simmons is missing is intensity. He gets very intimidated on the offensive side of the ball. That's why he defers the pass. As you can see, Kyle Lowry guarded him, and he deferred the pass instead of trying to take the bucket on Kyle Lowry. And Kyle Lowry doesn't really provide any defense, but he was intimidated by the IQ of what could happen if he does try to go to the basket and make a layup. He might draw a charge and he might not make his free throws. A lot of things that goes through his head. I think the Nets need to allocate their resources to a different player instead of trying to figure out how to get this guy's mental situated. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you can't fix certain people. I think what we're seeing right now is him actually moving away from the facade of actually being a point guard and being considered a point guard to now a backup five role, which I think he really is. Because if you, I always said, if you put him against an actual position like a five or a four, how does he show up and how does he play? And this is what's happening right now because he has no value when it comes to the guard spot. So he's going to have to play one of those big man position. So honestly, Chris, I don't see anything happening with Ben Simmons. Thank God for Kyrie and KD. Thank God for Royce O'Neal because I think Royce O'Neal is very underrated. Playing alongside with KD and Kyrie, I mean his 3 point percentage is very very efficient. Even with Seth Curry, um, I think Nick Claxton is a good center. I'm not sure about the argument of top 10, but he is number two in blocks, so you gotta give him credit. But for Ben Simmons to be the backup towards him. The defense, like people talk about his defensive pressure, it's not really there. I'm pretty sure a lot of fives can definitely score on him, whether he be afraid to foul them or just be afraid to play some physical defense on him. I think it's just more than therapy. I think he really needs to find himself. But I think because of his youth and his talent and his athleticism, uh, people are going to go ahead and ignore that he may need to sit out, and they're going to try and work him, even if it just results into a PJ Tucker stat line. So, shouts out to the Nets. You're still good with or without Ben Simmons. Yeah, and that's really all I got for that, Chris. Oh, and catch out my next segment of Heat in Five reviews and recaps tomorrow after the game. So I'll have that for you for HoopSpaces YouTube.
All right, see, look at that. Like he is fitting right in, and it's really that easy, right? Shout out to Justin Patton again down below. If you are a fan, I'm going to use Jay the Wakandan as an example here, right? Jay, you are a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies, right?
Correct.
Now, I one, you've got a job that is a work at work job and work at home job. So I exclude you from this. I'm just using you as an example. But you would rate yourself as a passionate NBA fan, right?
Absolutely.
And you have varied opinions, especially after watching the game, and you look for an avenue to share these opinions, right?
Yep.
So imagine if you had 5 to 8 minutes where you could look into a camera and just tell the people, the world, in the NBA exactly what you think about what you just saw watching the Memphis Grizzlies.
Um, I would get kicked out of the Grizzly group chat, Chris. Not gonna lie to you, but it would sound fantastic. Um, because I can't tell you how many Laker fans or Bron fans have blocked me on Twitter. I had one dude, and y'all may not know this. And this was years ago. I actually, when I had time, was writing uh pretty frequently for Silver Screen and Roll, and Harrison Fagan and I used to interact on the TL a lot. This was around 2014 when the Lakers were bad. Um, and we were in a room. I got the mic and I said that the Lakers need to trade AD and Braun now, right after the Phoenix series. And yeah, so I mean, I could carve out that time, but the relationships I would
Oh yeah.
probably lose.
Well, one,
Um,
we wouldn't want you to say all that. We would just want you to say what you saw in the game. Um, it's just one of those things where like everybody has an avenue to share their thoughts and opinions, right? And
right.
imagine if you were able to carve out that 5 to 8 minutes time, you'd get it on video, and would put in a position where people would watch it. Would you like that? Is the question.
Yeah, I would like that.
So it's really that easy. If you are of like mind here with Jay, where you would say, "Yeah, I would like the ability to share my passion for my team," you can do what JFK did and reach out to Justin Patton, and he'll give you. I think we're at it like it's a 5 step thing. It's not even hard. Like it really isn't. So reach out to Justin if you're down below interested in doing these reaction videos. Um, let's see. I lost my thought because we're like so close to 12.
Oh
I
no, it's
prop.
fine
Yeah,
because
I
Tim Albright isn't walking through that door.
neither is Ty Lawson. I am helping out a fellow creator. I will be on Sharon Brown's podcast talking Grizzlies later today. She had reached out before, and I told her I would do it if she needed. Um, and so that'll happen, which is another reason why I won't be on the show tomorrow because I'll be yeah, I'll be out. I'll be tired. I'm not gonna lie. But I will post the link as we'll be talking Grizzlies, and I that's why I went to Jay here, because the Grizzlies are entering a remarkable stage in development as a franchise. 28-13 is the record to, as of today. They are tied for first in the Western Conference with the Denver Nuggets. My question is looking back from last year to this year, what have we seen different in these Memphis Grizzlies? Think about that for a minute, Jay, as we go to Chris with sports for his thoughts on the Nets. Chris, go ahead.
Yo, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you, Chris, for having me, man. I appreciate that to the utmost, man.
Yeah, happy to have you. Well, what's your thoughts?
Thank you, man. I think that we can stay afloat without Kevin Durant, and I think that of course we're gonna lose some games because you can't replace Kevin Durant. Everybody knows who Kevin Durant is. But I just think that with Kyrie and the supporting cast, Jock Vaughn and the job he's doing, I think that we're going to be able to win a couple games as well. But my take on the Ben Simmons thing, like everybody wants to piggyback off of, like, I think everybody just has the same thing and then everybody just rides with it, like, oh, Ben Simmons this, and they get blind, like they get I said the wrong word. They get I can't think of the word, but like because he's a max player and he's 6'10" and you know what I mean? They
Oh,
feel as though
they pocket watch and put
yeah,
high
expectations
expectations
on
on it.
right.
Yeah.
But it's like he is who he is. Like he's even said it. Like he's enjoys like creating opportunities for his teammates. Like he's a pass first guard. And I don't know why all of a sudden they expecting him to go out there and score 15, 20 points a game when that's not his game. Like he does a very good job at what he do. That's like, you know what I mean? Like if I get effort from him and him generating turnovers and also him creating plays for his teammates, rebounding and like giving effort, period. Like that's all you can ask for, not even just from him, but all the guys. Like I'm not going to expect them to be anything outside of who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. A lot
Like
of
he's
people.
not a scorer.
Well, he can be is the issue. He's not a shooter. He can score still, and that's always been.
Yeah, but that's
Uh,
tough. Like when he's not a shooter, when you can't shoot.
well, no, because it goes back to
But think
the
about it. All of the
the.
good scorers can shoot. Even like LeBron, he can still shoot it. Like
Well, it took LeBron years to develop that shot because he didn't shoot like that in the beginning. The issue is LeBron has something that Ben Simmons doesn't have, and it's the ability to actualize physicality. Um, LeBron knew he wasn't going to be stopped physically. Ben Simmons doesn't know that. And because
I don't
Ben
know.
Simmons, if he did, Chris, he would
We've
be
seen it though.
averaging 20, 10, and 10.
I guess, but like he's not a scorer. That's not his thing. Like his thing
Again,
is creating opportunities for his
he
teammates.
doesn't need to be a scorer like that. He simply needs to understand that 65% of the people who are checking him cannot physically guard him.
Right, but also
Kyle
like
Lowry.
no excuses. That you talking about one play? Like he talking about one play.
No, I'm not talking about one play.
Not
I'm
you, Chris.
talking
Not you, Chris.
about
The other guy. Not you.
well, but then he said Kyle Lowry because he's a Heat fan. You could also say Trey Young if you're a Hawks fan. You can also say Fred Van
Exactly.
Vliet if you are a Raptors fan. Every player that he has guarded that's like 6 foot and below, or who has guarded him, is an opportunity for him to get an easy bucket. And like the issue that I have with Ben, and I said this before, was that all he needs to do is realize is he can put his butt in their chest. Like that's the height difference, and push them back down and force a double team where he gets like that's what he was doing in Philly in the beginning. is
Yeah,
using
that's
his
when he was.
fist.
That's
Yeah,
when he was healthy.
he's not doing that. He hasn't done that in years, even when he was healthy. And a lot of it is because Philadelphia went towards Joel Embiid as opposed to going towards Ben Simmons. And I think Ben Simmons didn't want to be a luxury accessory,
Right.
right? But the only reason why Philly would keep going to Embiid, which we still see, is because Embiid demanded the ball and punished people because he physically could punish them. Ben
Yeah, and that's what
Simmons,
Embiid loves to do, though. Like that's Embiid's game. He
but
loves
but
to have the
but
ball.
just because you don't like to do it doesn't mean you can't do it. And for
No,
Ben
that's a fact.
Simmons to
No.
be that player, he has to learn to be comfortable in doing it. And he
Yeah,
just
yeah, I
hasn't.
agree. I'm saying like if it's there, do it. But like I've seen him back down. He back down Lowry a couple plays, and then sometimes like if somebody come to help over, like he would kick it out. And I saw him. He went up over Jimmy Butler with the floater.
He had 4 points that game.
Bro, he's not a scorer. Like what does it matter? Like you're not
but
saying nothing.
but but again, the issue is
Just
he
like would,
just
would you expect PJ Tucker to go out there and give you like 10, 15?
if
No, he's
P
good at what
if
he
if
do.
PJ Tucker was 6'10" and 235 to 40 pounds, being guarded by a 6 foot 200 pound player, yes. In fact, that's part of the problem I have with PJ Tucker. Because if you watch Sixers games, there are times when Trey freaking Young is guarding him because Atlanta knows he ain't gonna do squat. So instead of using his 6'8", 240 frame to beat down a 5'10", 165 player, he sits in the corner. I have an issue with
But that's
that.
not PJ game though. That's not PJ
See
game.
that
You
that's the
expect him to
problem,
be something he's
Chris.
not.
You are saying that that's not his game. Again,
Is that
situational
wrong?
basketball matters.
Oh no, that's a fact. Like I'm
So
aware,
so
but
then
like
so
I'm not
then
going to
why are
expect
you
somebody to do something
arguing? But
that they
why are you
don't
arguing
do.
against me when I'm saying Ben Simmons' indictment is that he doesn't play situational basketball? That's
Hey,
the issue here. If you get Kyle Lowry on you, you back him down every time you get Kyle Lowry on you. Because situationally speaking, you're 40 pounds heavier and 10 inches taller.
no, that's a fact. But I'm telling you what he does. He's
What
going
I'm
to look
telling you is
for
he
his players.
doesn't
He's
do
going to
it
look for his teammates.
consistently. He doesn't do it consistently. He doesn't do it consistently within a game. He doesn't do it consistently in a week. He doesn't do it consistently in a month. He hasn't done it consistently since his third year in the league.
All right, man, y'all got it.
I like
Hey, I
Ben
wouldn't
Simmons.
argue with
Chris, I
Chris.
just want to
Chris
say,
watched Ben Simmons in Philly for a number
Like
of years.
I literally have seen
And me
85%
too.
of Ben Simmons games. Like
Yeah,
he
me
has
too.
done the same. And that's the issue. It becomes to the point where situationally speaking, he becomes a liability.
Chris, if you look at somebody like I'll even say a Bam Adebayo, if he was putting up Ben's numbers, like we would slander his name
No,
to
that's
the
But
two
end of
but
different
days.
people.
And
Like,
what I'm
but
bro,
trying
but
to
like
say
e-
is that
but
Ben
even
Simmons,
two different
no,
games.
because
Bam is a smaller guy
the
compared to the guys he
issue
goes against on this five.
the issue with that is Bam is guilty of the same thing. Like he's just now coming into the fact that at 6'9", 250, he realizes, oh my gosh, this is Jaden McDaniels of the Charlotte Hornets. Let me pound him in there, right? So that I can get a 15-footer or below, which then frees up the shooters. Then the team overreacts to the shooters. They swing it over to Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler gets the one-on-one and drives in. Tell me I'm wrong.
That's progress.
No, that's right. But I don't see too much of Heat games, so I can't speak on too much of Bam's game. But like from what I see, like he does a good job.
Well, he used to not, because the Heat fans would, like, in the beginning of every season, be like, this is the year that Bam's going to be a 20 and 10 guy. Never happens. All right, we're at 12. We're going to go ahead and get Anthony in here. We'll get a word from TR. We'll talk to Rolo, who's going to get y'all ready for 77 spaces tonight. And then we got my man Nick up here. But up first, Anthony's going to tell y'all why you need to watch the Knicks and RJ Barrett.
Well, I'm not going to tell you that. Watch it yourself. But the fact you had a full
I,
conversation
I,
about Ben Simmons and wasted 20 minutes about Ben Simmons is crazy.
how's it a waste?
Jesus, he is what he is right now. Chill out, bro. He's me. Listen, Ben Simmons is me at the rec league. Okay, that's what he is. He's
Bro,
me
Ben
at
Simmons
the
at the
rec league.
rec league would put 100 up on
No,
you.
he's me. You go to the
Exactly.
rec league,
Like,
he's
You
me.
ain't putting 100 up on nobody in a rec
Shit,
league.
Duncan
I'm
ain't
putting
doing
30.
nothing.
I'm putting 30 on anybody in this space right now. 30.
You
You
wouldn't
know
get a
what?
bucket over Ben.
We need to find somebody who wants to take Anthony up here on that. All you need to do is head to New York or Atlanta and see if he puts 30
I'll
on you.
come to you. I will give you buckets.
The gauntlet's been laid down. I was gonna say somebody's name, but he hasn't been here because he blocked me. We'll go next to TR. TR, what's up?
Oh, what's up, man? I'm good, man. I was just gonna chime in on the Ben Simmons talk, but I think we passed that
Go
now, man.
ahead. Might as well. Might as well. Give you 60
All
seconds.
right,
Come on.
60 seconds, man. He tried to compare PJ. Someone said something about like, oh, you're not expecting PJ Tucker to take that shot, so why should Ben? Well, PJ Tucker not getting paid 30 M's, and you know what I mean. Like we expect more
Well,
out of.
take the money. Take the money out. Take the money out. And the difference is you have a 6'10", 240 athletic freak of nature and a 6'8", 240 old dude like that. Like, what are we doing? That's the
Word, bro.
comparison that we
Word.
need to complain about.
Keep in mind when Ben was healthy, he was slamming on people.
Yeah, not consistently. Like I told you, it stopped at the end of the third
Yeah,
year.
this
Like,
was
what
his
are we
year. You know
doing?
he's a pass first guy, Chris. Like,
I said that too. Situational basketball dictates over everything. A coach will tell you this. You have a basic ideology and philosophy, you have an offensive game plan, but situational basketball always takes over in the game. And that's why great coaches like Doc Rivers are able to succeed.
no, I
Running,
agree. I'm just saying he is who he is. That's all.
well, yeah, and I'm saying he can be better.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I'm saying. I have no problem supporting Ben Simmons with who he is. I have a Ben Simmons if he's not trying to get better.
Right, right.
Can I
Um,
just jump
yeah,
in on
hop
this
in,
real
Nick. I was
quick?
about to go to
Because,
you.
yeah, like the Ben Simmons conversation and arguments to me sound so much like the Knicks arguments among Knicks fans. And it's like there's nothing happening. And so it feels almost like people are trying to gin up the energy to argue about him and take something to an extreme because really like it's pretty simple with Ben Simmons. Like he's a very talented and fundamentally flawed player. And so he does a
Well
couple of
said.
things at a
How
high
did the
level,
Knicks get in this conversation? What the
Be
hell?
and he
quiet,
does
Anthony.
a couple of things at a bad level. No, because I'm a Nick fan and I've been around like the Nick Twitter stuff and I see people pulling each other apart. And it's the same thing with the Knicks. Like, it's almost like people are bored because nothing's changing. Like, the Knicks are like a middle 10, above, slightly above average team. And people either want to argue that they're terrible or that they're going to be great and that everybody needs to be fired or traded or that everybody needs to be kept for the future. And the truth is, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. They're not all going to be kept. They're not all going to be traded. And the Knicks are okay. They're like a back end playoff team. And Ben Simmons right now is like a rotational guy who doesn't accentuate his strengths enough to be a really good player. And that's really the long and short of it. And part of it could be because he's not healthy. Part of it could be because it's something like fundamentally within him and his game. But like Chris is right. Like I was there at practices and at games for those first three Simmons seasons, and he was like physically overpowering guys and getting downhill. And he's just not doing it now. And if the argument is because he can't, because he's hurt, okay. And if the argument is because he won't, because he's afraid to go to the free throw line, or there's like a block there that's bigger than basketball, okay. But it's still a fact. Like he's not getting downhill against small guys that he could take advantage of. He's not time and situation, which is like a Jalen phrase that I kind of adopted into my life, which is like he doesn't even look in a situation where he's being guarded by someone who physically should not be able to guard him. And this isn't like when Porzingis couldn't post up Marcus Smart because Marcus Smart's a human anvil. Like he's being guys he should be able to just bump out of the way and get to 4 and 6 feet where he can, lay it up, throw it up, and get around the hoop and be productive. Or at least, and you do that once, cool. You do it a second time, and now things happen. Maybe it's a switch on defense. maybe guys have to start digging down and then passing lanes open up. But it's either because he can't or because he won't. He doesn't take advantage of the advantage consistently enough to like really propel the team forward and to make himself a weapon. And that's just it. And until he starts doing it, this is kind of how he's been playing now for a little while. And this feels like a lessened version of what we saw right before he stopped playing in Philly. But it's at a stasis. And I feel like people really want to argue about it and get themselves exercised to like get these takes off when really like he's just playing like kind of a middling forward who can't shoot but can at times defend and definitely can pass. And that's it. There's a lot of decent guys like that out there in the league. It's just not exciting enough, and I feel like people are trying to feel vindicated on one end or the other, and this is just who he is right now, and it can both be frustrating and also like not the worst.
Yeah, I like if you look at December, he had 5 games in double figures, right? He averaged like 6 assists, and 2 of those games he played sparingly and had 2 assists per game. So if you count those out, he was up at like 8 assists per game, 7 assists per game. He was averaging 7 rebounds. So like he's putting out um consistently 8, 7, and 7, right? And the issue that I have is that he can put out that 8, 7, and 7, but if he is guarding or if he's being guarded by Monte Morris of the Washington Wizards, the dude shouldn't be putting up 8, 7, and 7. He should be putting up at least 14, 7, and 7 because he should be able to get on Monte Morris 3 individual times and back him down. Situational basketball is the key to winning a championship. It's just that we don't talk about it because it's not sexy.
I think there was this idea that he was going to be like this souped up Draymond Green, or like this Giannis light, very light,
Yeah, very
Marlite
light.
Giannis. And I think, unfortunately, like it's just not there, and that's really frustrating to some guys. And I think Draymond has a lot of other things behind an 8, 7, and 7 line that make him like exciting and rootable and fundamentally important to like a long-term championship team. Some of which are tangible, some of which are intangible, and some of which like we attribute to him because he played on those championship teams. And Ben's not that. He's now kind of like a mercenary. He's been brought in, and people like this might be the Ben Simmons we see. And if it is, like, what can you do with that? I think to me is a more interesting question than, how come he's not? And like people still asking him to shoot, he's never going to shoot. He's never going to be able to shoot. It's over.
I'm leaning towards that direction. He just doesn't look engaged enough to want to shoot. Here's your schedule for tonight. Thunder at the Sixers. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander continues to have a torrid pace of most 30-point games for a team that's 5 games below 500 this year. There you go. That's your Oklahoma City Thunder news. Joel Embiid, 33.6 points per game, 9.9 rebounds per game, 4.5 assists per game. Will still lose the MVP to Nikola Jokic. He looks to carry the Sixers from the 4th to the 3rd seed. The Nets take on the Celtics tonight as well, 7:30. That'll be on TNT. Irving and Simmons will need to step up to take on Tatum and Brown. I'm calling this now. I think this is going to be the ugliest game of the night. Bucks and Heat, and I say that because Milwaukee's on a funk. It is just ugly basketball, and like no offense to the Heat, y'all play ugly too. It's okay. There's love for ugly. Sometimes you need ugly, but hopefully this won't be too bad. Toronto hosts Charlotte. The Charlotte professional basketball team looks to join the Houston Rockets at the bottom of the NBA standings. That'll be at 7:30. We didn't talk Raptors today, which is an ominous sign for Raptors. Very ominous sign. The
Keep it going.
Mavericks will be on TNT second half of the doubleheader against the Lakers. That'll be at 10 p.m. And then we'll close out at 10 p.m. on League Pass with the Cleveland Cavaliers going to Portland, who, although started out a feel good, warm story, are now 19 and 21, um, with questions on whether or not Jeremy Grant's going to be on the market. So we'll watch that. I am expecting Cleveland to win. Trailblazers just seem as though uh, even though they made some moves, they're still the same. And that's okay. All right. We've got Rolo up here, ladies and gentlemen. He is one of the hosts of 77 Spaces. Looking forward to doing a dope pregame covering Luka Doncic and LeBron James tonight. Luka, 34, 9 and 9. LeBron, 29, 8 and 7. All averages rounded to the nearest whole number. Appreciate your patience, Rolo. Come on in here as we're still a little bit past where I want to be, but I want to make sure that we give you guys enough time so you can show and spread the love of Mavs basketball.
Hey, Chris. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I hope you are feeling better. Thank you guys. A shout out to everybody in the room. Um, all love from Mavs fans over here. I had a great time at the Houston Rockets Mavs game about a week and a half ago, even though the Mavs did have to come back. That was at the tail end of their 7-game winning streak. Of course, it was a dogfight all the way till the end, as it has been for the Mavericks since they're missing their top 3 defenders. But yeah, tonight should be interesting. I had a buddy of mine that posted on the timeline that he wanted LeBron to wait to break the record when for February 26th when the Mavericks play the Lakers again. I think he's going to break it tonight, Chris. I think there's no defense. Our defenders, like I said, are out. So he's looking at Dwight Powell. He's looking at his buddy McGee. And yeah, it's going to be barbecue chicken tonight. This should be an interesting game. It's a national televised game. So, but yeah, I mean, Mavericks are going to have fun. Luka's been doing everything that he can, but there's just only certain things that Luka can do. He's not the strongest defender, but I'll challenge anybody to say that he's been a better defender than most people like to give him credit for. But yeah, 77 Spaces, the best damn Mavs pregame show, period. I'd love to invite all of you guys to show up. It's about an hour before the game tonight. Definitely Lakers fans, come on in. We'd love to hear you guys' takes. And yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, before you go, let's go ahead and hop in here to some Mavs talk. They are now the fifth seed behind Sacramento by just a half game in the standings. Or no, they're tied. They're tied. I think you guys played 2 more games. Um, there's been some talk about trades and possible trades for Dallas, and we're looking at one of them involving the Cleveland Cavaliers with the potentiality of Karis LeVert heading to Dallas in place of Tim Hardaway Jr. as Cleveland is looking for a wing shooter. Um, it's a very precarious position because Tim Hardaway Jr. is a big proponent in the Dallas Mavericks climbing up the standings with his shooting as he's taken over for Reggie Bullock in the starting lineup at times. What are you looking for? Because when we look at Denver and Memphis and New Orleans, we don't really think Dallas is in that league, right? Every other team seems to either have a good team concept or a duo that is in charge. In Dallas, we're looking at one of the only teams in the league who's purely isocentric on Luca, and he's been magnificent and bringing the Mavs to a 7-3 record in the last 10 games. What are you expecting? Like, are you wanting them to sell? Are you wanting them to buy? Are you wanting them to just tread water? Like, where are we looking forward to? And don't give all the answer away because this is also a tease question to make the likes of John Bynum, who's down below, or Dip, or Conspiracies and Flopaganda, maybe after the Nets get a victory, come through and chop it up about the Mavs. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been on the trade Hardaway plan for a long time. I don't necessarily think because I believe in that same report that they were talking about Tim Hardaway Jr. as an option. I think that Cleveland's apprehension is the money that's still owed, and if it's a matter of having to give up assets to trade Hardaway, I don't think that that's the right move for the Mavericks. Now, of course, again, we can definitely talk about that. We try to steer clear from trade talk, especially when we're talking pregame because it's such a limited time that we're on. But I mean, we'll definitely touch on the topic a little bit. I just don't know what the answer is. I think that you're right, Chris. I think Tim Hardaway Jr., unfortunately, because of the way the team is set up, is very shooter reliant. So they need everybody to make their baskets, right? So they need Reggie Bullock to start hitting. They they need Tim Hardaway Jr. to hit. They need Spencer to hit. And so it's just we're in a precarious position, like you said. But yeah, I mean, we can discuss that on 77 Spaces for sure. I don't think they should trade him right now, but I mean, we just got to see what else is out there. I mean, because Karis LeVert, I don't know if he makes that much of a difference. If it's more or less of a lateral move, if it's just to clear cap space, and if we're clearing cap space, we're talking about Mark Cuban. He's always cleared cap space, but for what? So I mean, that's what we gotta. That's the rabbit hole we gotta go down.
Shout out to Cash Biz Season Flopaganda. You can catch him on the Nets pregame today as well. Make sure you shoot him a follow as he hops in here, bringing back the Dinwiddie Levert backcourt. To which I replied, with the gift, because that's exactly what I want to see. Both Dinwiddie and Levert seemed to be at their best when they were on the floor together in the Brooklyn year that Kyrie went down. I think that actually is a very good pairing. The issue is, I think you would have to rely on Levert coming off of the bench. I tell you, I am just very happy at times that Mark Cuban is not the owner of my professional basketball team. Jay, hop in here real quick. I'll give you 30 seconds and I'm tapping out, man. I'm done.
I got you, man. I just wanted to cheer you up to let you know there's another 6'9", 240-pound guy um, who's not walking through the doors of a team that needs him to help, and that's Pops Mensa Bunsa. Um, and if we're talking about guard play, Jermaine Taylor, the Central Florida legend, also not walking through that door.
Shit,
Uh,
Brad Miller
sh-
not walking to that door either.
shout out the UCF legend. Um, Zaid Abdul Aziz also not walking through that door.
Yeah, Aaron Brooks not walking either.
Ugh. No, Aaron Brooks will probably be riding in on a Ducati. Shannon Anderson not walking through that door.
Doug Christie is not walking through that door.
Doug Christie. Was there a Doug Christie that played for the Rockets?
Oh, you ain't doing Rockets. My bad.
All right, with that, make sure you tap into JFK who's going to give you an excellent recap video after the Heat are victorious, hopefully. And if you're out on your bike at night, in honor of Tony Kornheiser, do wear white. And I do want to let everybody know, Craig Elo not walking through that door in Houston either.
Mm. Are those
Yeah.
Von Wafer footsteps? I think not.
Daniel House could be walking through that door with James Harden, though, and I wouldn't be mad. In fact, if you want to go ahead and send over Alperen Sengun and Jabari Smith, we'll send you Harden and House. We'll keep Tucker. We'll give you a first. We'll call it even. Brought to you by slamgoods.com. Head over to slamgoods.com. Use promo code HoopSpaces and save 15%. I'm not doing a show tomorrow. I might pop on if I get good news. I like good news. Good news is good.
Chris,
Bad news is not. Yeah.
I
What?
just want to say that the last couple of times that you have not been on, so I can review the Heat, we won. So I'm not sure how I'm feeling about tomorrow's Spaces.
Oh, well, I have zero control on who wins or loses. Otherwise, I'd be rich. Promo code Hoop Spaces. Use it over at Slam Goods. Pick up one of the limited edition Slam Goods Funko Pop heads, like the collector's edition. You should definitely do it. Sold out of everybody except for like two dudes. Ray Allen, I believe, still has a couple left, as well as Sean Kemp. So make sure you pick them up. Use promo code HoopSpaces, and while you're there, check out the pickup card game. $25 minus 15% for a lifetime of memories. It's dope. Yeah, I had something else I wanted to close on. I can't remember, but I will say Jared Jeffries will not be walking through those doors because he won a new car on The Price is Right.
You probably wanted to end on how the Grizzlies starting five unit in limited sample size has one of the best plus minuses in the NBA. That's probably what you wanted to end on.
Sure, I'll be on later today with Sharon Shy Brown talking Grizzlies on her podcast, and we will talk Grizzlies. And I will use that fact, Jay. Say it one more time.
That the Memphis Grizzlies starting five, John Morant, Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Steve Adams, in a very limited sample size, 7 games, 78 minutes, have one of the best plus minuses in the NBA. Is actually a better plus minus than the Golden State starting five.
Did you say 78 minutes?
Yes, I said limited. Everybody's been hurt off and on sporadically, but it's a good sign. Now they
To
don't
all,
shoot as well. They don't shoot as well as the Golden State starting five,
yeah.
but that plus minus is better.
To all of you Houston Rockets fans, I leave you with this, and this might blow your mind. Scott Brooks is not walking through those doors. See you next week, Monday at 10 a.m. And if you didn't know that Scott Brooks played for the Houston Rockets, shame on you. Peace out.
Yeah, Vanderbilt.